I'm Jean Marie Herron, Certified Professional Organizer. Welcome to POSSE, productivity and organizing solutions serving everyone in your home office, or virtual. If you want to see my organizing and productivity classes and videos, make sure to hit the subscribe button. So welcome everybody. Happy New Year. Happy 2022. We're still in January, so I think etiquette says I'm allowed to say that. And I have a very special presentation for this month's POSSE's Pen. It's called Go Green, Organizing with a Conscience for 2022. And I have a special guest speaker, Sue Barbuto, who is here with me today. But for those of you who may not know me, my name is Jean Marie, and I'm a certified professional organizer, and I own and manage a company called POSSE. So a couple of quick housekeeping items. I already told you that we are recording, and we will open up for questions in our Q&A segment, probably about 15-20 minutes into our presentation. But if you have a question, please feel free to put it in the chat box, and we will have a look at that before we open it up. So you already know what today's topic is, but I'm going to go ahead and tell you what next month is. Next month, for our POSSE's Pen for the month of February, we have what I call Your Last Act of Love. And I have another guest speaker. Her name is Eileen Moynihan. And Eileen is actually another professional organizer, no competition whatsoever. And she specializes in estate administration. So she also wrote a wonderful book called After the Funeral. And let's put it this way, I can't tell you what she can do in a nutshell, but if anybody in my life ever passed away, she would be the first person I call, because she's extremely helpful with all of the paperwork that you have to go through and tying up of loose ends. And so I was going to wait till the end to tell you about my new news, but I'm going to go ahead and tell you now, and then we will get started. So for those of you who've known me for about 16 years now, that's what I've been organizing for in terms of my length. I'm actually moving to a new position in February, and I'm going to be joining the Junk Luggers, and don't let the name fool you. I will be moving into this position as their business development director, and they are a company that I've had a relationship with for over a decade, and almost nothing that goes on the truck goes into the landfill. So they aim to donate and recycle 100% of everything on the truck. So I feel this is very, very synergistic, but I'm also going to develop a service line that includes a professional organizer with the junk removal, or I should say the donation removal. And that's what I will be doing Monday to Friday. And I will keep POSSE very small for private clients on the weekends. So starting next month, you can still get me at my same cell number, but I'll have an additional email address, and this will not change. This platform right here, I'm going to continue to do our monthly Zoom gratis calls, and I'm also going to continue to do my monthly e-zine. So that's my big news. Hopefully you'll congratulate me and wish me a lot of luck. So I'm not really going very far. So there you have it. So now for our official presentation today, there is so much information in this POSSE's Pen that we are going to give you the handout, and Deb put a link in the chat box, so it's there for you. This way you're not writing copious notes. You'll have the handouts. We are not only going to be going through things you can do in each typical room in a home, but we'd love to give you the big picture, or Sue will give you the big picture, because there's a really big picture here on our planet. So we're going to get right into it. And I was thinking, when Sue and I were collaborating, whether I'm an organizer, a homeowner, a mother, a daughter, doesn't really matter. These are questions that I've thought about as I've been, in my home or walking the planet. Where do decluttered items go? So, when I put that sweater in the bag and I write United Breast Cancer Foundation and they come and pick it up, eventually, what happens to that sweater? Do we really throw things out, and are they gone forever? What is the life cycle of things or stuff? So, I would tell my clients when they were standing online in TJ Maxx about to purchase something, I would say, ask yourself a couple questions. Number one, if I purchase this and I bring it home, where will it live in my home? Might it be replacing something in my home, or is it just going to add to my home contents? And what do I feel the life expectancy is? So, if I buy an ottoman for the living room, how long do I really believe that ottoman is going to stay in my living room? So these are really kind of, mindful questions to ask. You could ask yourself whether or not the item is biodegradable. And then, of course, what can I do with my non-keepers? So for those of you who do not already have my donation resource list, I have a 6-page donation resource list. Send me an email at the end. I'm happy to give it to you. I collaborate on this list with Cindy Meyer of Ridgewood Moving, and we update it quarterly, and we spend a lot of time and energy on our resources there. So if you don't have it, make sure you get it. Okay, so that being said, I'm going to turn the next slide over to Sue, who's going to give you humongous big picture things, concepts, and then we'll go into each room of the house. And as I do that, I'm going to ask Sue to talk about her pen story, which is how we kind of first met. So go ahead, Sue.
Thank you. Thank you, Jean Marie. Can you hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. It's funny. I will tell the pen story, but first I want to say that Jean Marie sometimes goes by JM, but I have to say, for me, she is a real gem.
Oh.
And what I met Jean Marie many years back when I asked her to come in and help me organize my study. And she looked around my study, because paper is actually my difficult issue, what to do with all the stuff in my study. And she looked around and she saw that I had 4 or 5 mugs of pens and pencils, some that worked and some that didn't work. And she just really very bluntly asked me, why do you have so many pens? And, I really didn't know how to answer her. I hadn't really I hadn't really realized that I had so many pens. And then I started thinking, with my background and my education and my consciousness, I guess you could say, I visualized those pens were basically non-biodegradable, right? So if I threw them out, they would end up probably for 1,000 years in a landfill, or maybe they would end up in the bottom of the ocean, inside some sea animal's stomach. So that was my resistance to, and that was my answer to Jean's to the pen story. But it's interesting because, Jean, you also do pens. Pen is part of your logo too. So it's kind of interesting how that happened. Anyway, I will jump into these concepts. They're sustainability concepts that you see on your screen. It's to give you the big picture and the thinking behind sustainability, and then we'll get into the specifics. The phrases that you see before you are phrases that are used in the sustainability field, but do not get bogged down in the phrases or the wording. Just try to think of the concepts behind the wording. And I'm going to go rather quickly so your questions can go at the end in the question and answer section. So there's a concept of linear thinking versus systems thinking, and this is really the main point of it all. Linear thinking, you think of a line, you think of a beginning and an end, and it's very one-dimensional. Systems thinking is you're thinking of the whole system. Systems thinking originally comes out of the field of biology, but these days it's, everybody applies systems thinking to their practice, to their area of study. I use systems thinking as a hospital social worker when I worked with ill patients and their families. So that was another application. The next idea is what Jean Marie already referred to, is there is no away. When you throw something away just because it's out of sight, out of mind, it's not really aware, it goes somewhere, right? So we have to be aware of what that away is. The next one, feedback loop. That's symbolized by our recycling symbol, which is the chasing arrows, which doesn't have an end. It just is continuous. And one link of it gives feedback to the next link. It's sort of the idea of what goes around comes around. The next one is cradle to cradle, from a raw resource to a new product. That is probably one of the newest ideas where businesses are catching on to the idea that they need to be responsible for their product that they produce from raw resource, from beginning to the very end. And I will give you a quick example. For the plastics industry, if plastic is made either out of oil, that's the natural resource, the raw source, or sometimes natural gas, and it's turned into either film plastic or hard plastic. And when we're done with that plastic product, it is not biodegradable, and it will end up in a landfill or whatever and not degrade unless the business, the manufacturer, agrees to take it back, melt down the plastic, which turns into smaller plastic pellets, which can be melted down and turned into a new product. So that's the idea of cradle to cradle, from beginning to end. And who's responsible for that? Not necessarily the homeowner who's always browbeated who's always told to recycle. That's the businesses stepping up and producing cradle to cradle. Trade-offs. There is no perfect solution. We're always making trade-offs in life. Same thing with sustainability. You make your best educated guess or assumption as to what's most sustainable. And that's really a key thing. It goes back to that phrase of don't let the perfect be the enemy of the good. So you really educate yourself and you do the best you can. Externality. Oops, did I skip upstream versus downstream? Okay, upstream versus downstream. Do we deal with the problem at the source when it's upstream and it's a much smaller problem? Or do we let it go downstream where it becomes larger over a greater span of space and a much, much larger toxic problem, and more costly as well? So you can just picture somebody putting a toxin upstream and having it flow downstream into everybody's drinking water. Becomes a much more costly, larger problem. Externalities, who pays the cost? That is, I think that comes out of the field of economics, actually. Is the manufacturer paying the cost, or is some outside agency consumer paying the cost? And a quick example would be when a manufacturing company business is working and manufacturing in an inner city, and part of their processes, they produce massive amounts of air pollution or even some air pollution. And those residents in that community that the factory's in largely, suffer from asthma from the air pollution. So those residents go to their hospital and they pay their healthcare costs, but it's on them to pay their healthcare costs. It's not on the manufacturer who is producing the problem. So that's the concept of externality. Tap the power of limits. I love Jean Marie's phrase, less is best. If you can understand your limits, it gives you a sense of freedom and time away from managing all the resources that you might consume. Somebody once gave me the example, like, how many pairs of black pants do you really need?
Wonder who that was. Sorry.
Precautionary principle. That is a more common way of thinking in Europe. The Europeans generally take precaution before a problem becomes even larger. I mean, this is a gross generalization, whereas Americans will, let things happen. free market, let it happen, and then deal with the problems after they've happened. So an example, a very specific example, is the personal care products and cosmetics industries in Europe. If you buy cosmetics from Europe, you're a little more guaranteed that there are more controls over the toxic ingredients. They're a little more regulated, and probably a little more sustainable, actually. Whereas in this country, we don't really regulate the chemicals and the agents that go into it. Maybe we have 7 chemicals that are not allowed to go in, but in Europe, they maybe only allow 7. So there's quite a contrast in how different cultures deal with the precautionary principle. Greenwashing, that is the same as fake sustainability. Businesses are jumping on board. People are jumping on board. They know that consumers want sustainability, and sometimes they'll just put that on their label when it's not really the case. So it's a buyer beware situation. You have to educate yourself as much as possible and try to be sustainable. Lastly, power of the consumer, your dollar speaks. Everybody knows that, right? Maybe more locally than nationally. I'll give you an example of local power of the consumer. I pick up my shirts my husband's shirts, actually, or our dry cleaning at our local dry cleaner. And I bring them home in the plastic bag, and then I discard the plastic bag, or if I'm doing okay, I bring it to the supermarket where they take the film plastic. But I thought that was a little wasteful, a little silly. So I went to my dry cleaner and I said, could you give me a reusable bag that I bring in every time and bring it back and use, we reuse it back and forth. And she was more than happy to accommodate that request. After all, it saves her money on the plastic bags that she has to give out. So that's about it for all these concepts. I hope I didn't totally bore you or blow you away.
So thank you for the pen story. Now you know why Sue is the environmental educator and activist, and I am the organizer. So that was a huge, big picture. And I have to say that this morning, when I put on my mascara, I thought, oh my God, what kind of ingredients are in here? So now what we're going to do is we're going to go room by room very, very quickly, because, the pen is supposed to end at 1 o'clock. You do have the handouts. The link is in the chat box. We're basically going to read them, but also, and I'm going to mention this at the end as well, Sue is very happy to take questions on her own offline. She's going to be giving you her email and her cell phone number because she's really, really passionate about all of this. So we're going to start with the main house. And here we go. I'm going to do the kitchen. These are all things you can do to go green in your kitchen. Recycling bins, a composting system. So those of you who know me, I turn lots of things into acronyms besides my company name. And system stands for saving you space, time, energy, and money. And in this case, when you put systems into your home, you can be a lot more green in your future besides 2022. Reusable plastic and glass containers, AKA Tupperware, although I don't know how many people have Tupperware anymore. Film plastic, can go back to the supermarket. Remember to keep your green bags in the car. Please try to buy energy efficient and Energy Star appliances. Clean with non-toxic cleaning products. Put in, if you already don't have a reverse osmosis water filter, and of course, try to conserve water when possible. And lastly, buy local and organic.
Okay, family room, LED lighting, which is pretty common these days, but you want to be careful to buy the one that says Energy Star. Not all LED lighting is Energy Star. Insulating curtains and shades, very, very important for saving energy in your home and the heating and air conditioning. Also, if you use a certain shade, the cellular shades, sometimes made by Hunter Douglas, you may also qualify for a tax deduction for the energy efficiency factor. Carpeting, wool and natural fibers are often the best. You want to avoid, well, synthetics, you want to avoid some synthetics because they do give an off-gassing into your air, and experts will tell you that it can contribute to the indoor air pollution. So be aware of that. Indoor plants can help air quality. You can find, probably Google a list of plants that you can bring indoors that will improve the air quality. Furniture, buy furniture that's made sustainably. The best is organic and natural fiber fabrics that will last.
Awesome. On to the bathrooms. So we're going to talk about toilet paper. So you can recycle your cardboard, or better yet, you can get tubeless. You can get unbleached, and you can buy from companies such as Seventh Generation. Another room where we can conserve water and utilize low flow toilets as well as faucets. We can use washable hand towels instead of, giving ourselves and our guests paper. Go with non-toxic toiletries. And there are actually recycled dental products and companies that will do this now. So we're going to go on to laundry room.
Laundry room, cold water washes. Most detergents these days are geared for cold water washes. They actually perform better in cold water than they do in hot water. You want to be aware of fleece. The hot thing now is to buy fleece made from recycled bottles and recycled plastic products. However, you don't want to wash that. If that's the case, you don't want to wash that fleece in hot water. The fibers will break away in hot water. Eco detergent, my absolute favorite company is Seventh Generation out of Vermont. I've actually toured that company, and they do something that's called, they green their supply chain. So everything they use, their people that they get their resources from, they've greened their whole supply chain. Recycle containers, that's pretty straightforward. Non-toxic cleaning agents, I find that I get along just fine with vinegar, Simple Green, lemon juice, lemon oil. It's also, I started doing that when I had pets and young children who were always, on the floor or wherever. So it's not only a good environmental thing, it's good for the family and the pets. Hang clothes when dry, when possible, hang clothes to dry. It helps with energy efficiency. It also helps to maintain the life of your sweater or your shirt or whatever you're hanging dry. So less wear and tear in the dryer. Avoid disposable packaging. That's pretty straightforward.
Okay. All right, we're running short on time, so I'm just going to read. In rooms like the study, library, and home office, of course, paper and magazine recycling. On my resource list, which I mentioned earlier, there's lots of resources for book donations, but Sue can talk to you offline about the College Club Book Fair that is held every year in Ridgewood. Computer equipment, please make sure you are recycling your technology. And then phantom electricity, making sure that you're utilizing surge protectors, and when your equipment is not in use, to unplug them.
Closets. Buy wool, cotton, natural fibers as much as possible. I believe this is a Jean Marie advice. Keep a bag in your closet for giveaway items, donation items. And when you bring one item in, you put one item in the bag to donate. That way you keep it limited. Power of the limits, remember? Buy high-end or otherwise resale fashion. Avoid fast fashion, and that's fashion, that's clothing that really only lasts one season. It's really only meant to last one season. I'm learning from the young people, my daughter and my nieces and other young people, that they now go online and they will buy high-end fashion or much better quality fashion on a resale website. So they get better quality for a lot less price.
Okay. Right, in the garage, definitely have an area that's organized for storage of your e-waste. Set up a recycling center. I love to create a landing strip, which is basically an in-process to go out. So if you have things that are, going to be recycled, you can set them up there. a hazardous materials safe section. And then if you were in Bergen County, like a lot of us on the call, the Bergen County Utility Authority.org website will tell you when hazmat, electronics, and tire recycling are, usually in the spring and the fall. And try to organize these areas with containers with labels. It helps people understand what goes where and everything to be recycled correctly.
Outside considerations, that's your yard and your garden. A trend that's happening is people are requesting sustainable landscapers. Those are landscapers who don't overuse fertilizers and pesticides. A very new movement in my county, in our county, is to get landscapers to use electric powered mowers and blowers rather than gas powered. And part of that is spurred by the people working from home, where the electric powered equipment is quieter, less smelly, less oil smell, and less, carbon emitting. So electric lawn appliances, be aware that may be in your future. Composting, backyard composting is something that I've been doing for a long time. The biggest concern that people have is, does it get smelly? Is it smelly? Will it attract animals? My answer has to say no. If you're doing it right, I've never had a problem with any of that. So, it's easier than you would ever imagine. Native plants. You want to look for native plants when you're planting in your yard or your outside space. Native plants generally require less watering, fewer pesticides, if any, and less fertilizer. Plant your trees and shrubs on the north side of your house. That will give you a buffer from the north winds and the cold. And likewise, plant your garden on the sunny south side of the house. Rain gardens and rain barrels are up and coming ideas that people are adapting. A rain garden is a garden in an area with poor drainage that you want to plant. Plants that like wet feet. So plants that will just really soak up the water. For example, ferns do that. So that's a rain garden. Rain barrels are barrels that you will put under a downspout, which will collect the excess water from your roof or wherever, and you can reuse it in your garden.
Thank you, Sue. All right, so relative to the whole house, we did individual room. These are things to consider going green for the entire home. So LED light bulbs, decreasing disposable waste, paper and plastic particularly. Ceiling fans are a terrific help circulating the heat and the air conditioning. And everybody's body's different. So, you might be comfortable cool at night. They're suggesting 62 to 65, and then moderate your AC for comfort during the day. Consider geothermal and solar panels. A lot of people are doing this. Make sure that you have ample attic and wall insulation. We spoke before in a particular room about insulated shades and curtains, but you can use this for the whole house. And consider buying renewable energy from your utility company. So that was a ton of information. We're just about at the end. I did mention before that Sue is more than willing to take questions offline, but these are just a few pictures of systems that she has set up in her home. Sue, can you do this really quickly so we can jump out to Q&A, because we're just about out of time?
Okay, sure. The pots, the plants, the pots that you see on the upper right, they can be returned now to some Lowe's and some Home Depots. That's an example of where I think the gardening industry should step up and do this on their own. The middle one, we have a box of light in my garage on the shelf, the light bulb recycle, to go for the BCUA collection several times a year. The lower is the medicine disposal. Please do not put it in your sink or in your toilet. It will get into our drinking water. There are collection places for used medications in the police stations and the pharmacies, so be aware of that. And just I'll jump up to the upper left is actually a hodgepodge box of plastic that I one day hope to send to TerraCycle, which is the company that will take your plastic and turn it into a plastic bench and give it to you free.
Awesome. Thank you. All right, so we're gonna go to Q&A. I'm gonna stop sharing, see all your lovely faces. Hi, everybody. So I'm gonna go to the chat room. So Sue and I are happy to stay a little late. Oh, sorry, everybody. I know that was very unprofessional, but that's my assistant, Deborah, and that must be Kinley. Aubrey, hi. I had to do that. Sorry. All right. Most of us are women anyways. We get very excited about children and grandchildren.
I get to play grandma for a little while today.
Okay. Thanks so much, Deb. Okay. So in the chat box, I see the handout. Oh, also, and those of you who are registered, you always get a follow-up email. Additionally, I have a document. It's called Your Drawer Full of Old Tech Could Use a New Life, and it's all on e-waste. I didn't have time for it today, but you can have the slideshow and this, so that'll come to you. We have my new contact information for my new position I told everybody about, which starts next month. And you are welcome to take yourself off mute if you have particular questions. Now is the time. Cindy, I see a hand up. Do you want to unmute yourself? Or are you saying hi?
Am I unmuted?
Yeah.
Hi, everybody.
Hi, Cindy. Cindy runs
Hi.
Ridgewood Moving.
Oh, hi, Cindy.
Hi, Sue. Great presentation and very timely, because one of our goals as a company here in Mahwah is to be more mindful on our recycling, not only as a business, but as a company. So we've been brainstorming as a company of what we can do. You know, we recycle boxes. There are a few things that we do. But one of the disheartening revelations of being a business in Mahwah is that we realize that the businesses are not recycling here. Businesses are not recycling paper, and they're not recycling cans and bottles. The DPW picks up maybe from one business in our community. And so we're taking an initiative as a business, and hopefully for the town, to get more businesses involved. But I guess my question to you, after speaking to other companies in different communities, they say the same thing, that you made a comment about greenwashing. And I believe that there are many employees that work for companies that throw their cans and bottles in a recyclable garbage can, and then everything goes out in the back, and then the garbage men come along and put everything into the garbage truck. So I believe that I'm talking two different questions and comments. So I'd love to hear your opinion on that.
So I'm going to let Sue answer this one, but before she does, I recently moved to Ridgewood, and I'm also on the Ridgewood Board of Directors. And right now what's happening in our town is they are making a serious effort. They know the discrepancy between what happens from a residential recycling situation and business. Because right now what's happening is if a business wants to recycle on their own accord, they're taking everything over to the depot. So the town itself is in the middle of figuring out. So I don't know who you might be able to join there in terms of what association or what groups to help, connect, your recycling efforts with what the town can do. Like we just started with styrofoam in our town. So now as a resident, we can recycle styrofoam, but what hasn't happened yet is the town is waiting on a densifier for businesses. And once we have the densifier, then the businesses can recycle styrofoam. So I don't know who you can speak to in the township of Mahwah, but I would try to figure out who to connect with to, start the communication efforts. Sue?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a very common thing, that a lot of the towns will insist on the residents recycling, but they have exemptions for the businesses. They also sometimes have exemptions for apartment buildings, which I don't think is necessary, because if New York City can recycle and require recycling in their apartment buildings, so should everyone else. Yeah, so I think this is where you could work with your Rotary Club, or if you have a business, a local business organization, you could try to educate them and work with them. And this is also where the power of the consumer comes in. If you're a consumer of a business, when I go to the store and when I go to the jeweler to get a new battery for my watch, I check in with the jeweler and I say, no, what do you do with that battery? Are you sure you recycle it? And he says, yes, he's reassured me that he recycles. So keep in mind that the power of the consumer with businesses.
What about, I know and I could get the name of this association wrong. Are you a member of the New Jersey Environmental Commission, Sue? Yes, you can, Cindy, you can contact your environmental commission in Mawa. They have different things that they focus on environmentally. I don't know if they would get into the business aspect of it, but you could sure inquire and ask them to work with you. Sure.
Yeah, so far, we have made some strides in conversations, but again, as I said earlier, it's disheartening how behind the times I feel the town is when it comes to the businesses in recycling. So we figure we start with Ridgewood Moving, and we're in a complex, and we will do our part, and we will pass the word on to our neighbors at 575 Corporate Drive. And if we could get that one strip of businesses to start, it's an effort to move it in the right direction.
Yeah, and if people see what you do in that strip on Corporate Boulevard, all those other businesses would hopefully follow suit.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
That's our goal.
Just one last point. The reason why towns are hesitant to get involved with recycling with businesses is because often they require the local businesses to pay for their own carting. They don't pick up the garbage. Businesses have to get rid of their garbage on their own and pay for it on their own. So they often don't interfere with that. And that's where the breakdown is.
Okay.
Thank
All right.
you.
You're welcome. Any other questions about anything going green or sustainability from our conversation today? Cheryl.
I did. I sent a quick little evite. I'm a senior move manager in Westchester, so I'm in Rye. So we, like you, do a lot of downsizing and organizing. And one of the things, there's some textiles that are just not donatable. They're straight textiles. And it's really hard to find a straightforward textile recycling, someone who actually makes it to the thread. Do you have any tips on how to find that kind of, sometimes our one farmer's market had a great booth and it was legit, but those bins you see, that's not true textile recycling. Any hints?
Are you talking about clothing?
Yes, clothing or, unused fabric that, like, the truest sense of recycling is someone will take it and make new thread out of it.
There's one company that I'm aware of, and I think it's called Go Green Planet, but I can find the name for sure. We have it in our town, and apparently they do recycle the fibers.
Yeah, I mean, it's harder to find, but if they're not used and put in landfill, fabric does not break down. So it's really critical, as you all know. Thank you.
That question reminded me of a resource that we have on our donation resource list, which is the Linus Project. And it's specifically for quilts and any type of materials and sewing equipment that you would use to make quilts. And they have collections at a lot of the local Joann's fabrics. And there's a woman, and all of her contact information is on that list. She lives in Woodcliff Lake. She even has the side of her house set up where you can donate right on her house, and she will take care of it. But as for other textiles, I have no idea. So that was a great question.
Is that on your resource list, Jean Marie?
It is. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. If you haven't seen Jean Marie's resource list, oh gosh, get your hands on it. It's wonderful. And she updates it.
Yeah. So I mentioned it earlier. Most of you have it. If you don't, you can get it either on my website or Cindy Meyer's website, because we collaborate on it and we update it quarterly. And if you folks have any fantastic resources, send it to either one of us. We'd be happy to put it on the next list. That would be great. Thank you. So thank you very much for joining us. I'm sorry we went a little over, but hopefully you found it worth it. And I hope to see you next month on February 16th when we talk about estate organizing. Fun, 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 fun. Okay.
Thank
All right.
you, Marie.
Take care, everybody. Happy 22. Remember, if you want to see more organizing and productivity videos created by POSSE, hit the subscribe button and you'll be alerted when the next one is ready.